we have seen, from say George Floyd time, and some of the other ones, the settlements never came this quick.
Yeah, this is
and
less than 6 months.
And
Yeah,
this is what
this is
Lawrence
un-
is saying.
This is
Earlier this year, back in March, the life of a 28-year-old Kenyan Avo Otieno was cut short in the hands of several police deputies near Richmond, Virginia. Now, footage released shortly after his death showed him being pinned by multiple police officers at a mental health treatment facility and stopped breathing shortly after. Now, 7 sheriff deputies and 3 hospital employees were indicted by a grand jury on charges of second-degree murder. And then prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump took up this case on behalf of Avo Otieno's family. Now, you'll also remember that the OneMicShow at that time had the privilege of hosting Avo's brother Leon Ouko shortly after Avo's death in what was a very emotional episode, as we can remember. Now, DJ Omosh has actually been closely following this court case and this story, and we actually got an update yesterday from Henrico Circuit Court judge in Virginia regarding this wrongful death case. So I'm gonna give it up to DJ Omosh awasalimie kwanza, and also just to briefly tell us exactly what happened, especially for those people who are not around here. DJ Omosh Fire, karibu sana.
wanisikia.
Loud and clear, loud and clear. How are you doing today?
Niko sawa, niko salama salmini.
Okay.
Wasikilizaji, karibuni.
Yeah.
My fans, all those number 1s, number 2s, and 3s, we know who you are. Thank you. So this is a brief update on Avo Otieno, a young man who was unfortunately, what's the right word? Smothered to death. Originally from Kenya, lived in the Richmond, Virginia area, Henrico County. And so there was a case, there was an ongoing case for wrongful death, for, I guess it was a criminal charge, as well as a civil charge.
A civil case.
Civil case.
Yeah.
And so basically the civil case was settled for $8.5 million to the family. And of that, the Henrico County was to pay the bulk of it, which was something like, I think, 4.5 million or something like that.
Okay.
And then it was split with the state. The state was paying something like 2 million. And then there was the sheriff's office paying something like 1.5 or something like that. So
Okay.
whatever, it added up to 8.5 million.
Okay, now this was just a civil settlement.
So yes, correct. This is the civil settlement, and so the
And what exactly does that mean? Like when we talk about a civil settlement.
So a civil settlement means that the accused or the people who are accused of killing him, which is, I think it's a total of 8 people. I think it was something like 3 cops and I think 5 state hospital employees. They have a criminal case. So the criminal case is still ongoing. The
Okay.
civil case has nothing to do with the criminal case.
Okay.
So basically, the civil case is what they are settling with, say, the state, and what the state, the county, and the sheriff's office, who, by the way, as part of that settlement, did not admit any wrongdoing. So they are basically saying we didn't do anything wrong, lakini shikeni ido.
Okay, and at this point, I want to welcome. We have our lawyer, our resident lawyer Pablo is also in the building. Maybe Pablo, you can also chime in a bit to make people understand, because this was a civil settlement.
Correct.
So basically, the entity itself, be it the county or is it the police department or the state, they're saying we did nothing wrong. But
Yes.
But your son died in our hands.
Yes.
And we're giving you
for this person passing away.
Okay.
We recognize that this person passed away. Sasa,
Okay.
we are giving you, but we're not taking any blame.
Okay.
That's part of the settlement, know.
Okay.
So you agree on terms,
Okay.
whatever that number ended up being, and maybe they had asked for more. I can't remember what the actual ask for it was, but they settled out of court.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay, but now the criminal case will still proceed.
The criminal case is still on. It's still proceeding, has nothing to do with this at all.
But now the question is, who is the defendant then if the police department, the county, the state are already taking themselves out through this settlement? So who are...
It's the individuals. The actual individuals who have been accused of taking part in the death of this young man.
Okay.
So is it 7 people? There were 7 or 8.
There were 7 or 8 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are the ones who will have the criminal case.
Yeah, and that was a couple of sheriff deputies, and there was also employees.
Yes, employees of the hospital. Yes.
So basically, like the hospital, the county, the state has told those people, you guys are on your own. We've already absolved ourselves.
Mujipange.
Wow. Okay.
Mujipange from the criminal. Now, what was interesting was that as of Monday, there was a wrongful death suit filed.
Okay.
I don't know what the repercussions of that are, and maybe if we have a legal expert, somebody who can chime in, what the difference between the wrongful death lawsuit, the criminal case, and of course we know the civil case has already been settled. And of that settlement, we had Leon, his brother was here.
Leon
right?
Oko, who was here on the OneMicShow.
So the bulk of that money was divided between him and his mom.
Okay.
Because he actually was the is it the administrator? He was the administrator of his brother's estate.
Okay.
So the bulk of that was between him and his mom, and then there was another small amount that was split amongst other relatives, like about 25K each.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right. Now this is interesting here, and Pablo here is saying, I agree with DJ Omosh. That was an out-of-court wrongful death settlement. The case against the hospital employees was dropped. Now it's just the cops on the case. Okay, so that's a good update. So I think so. The hospital employees no longer in hot soup. It's just the cops who are involved in this. And then now, Omosh, we are seeing, I don't know whether it's a strategy of securing a civil settlement first, then pursuing the criminal element of the case. Because you're seeing this criminal element now came in after this civil suit was settled. Does this represent maybe a new strategy that helps like people who are in this situation pursue a criminal case in comfort? Because we've seen situations where sometimes civil cases take years.
Now, you see, the difference here is the I think it's the state attorney who basically was like, no, or was it the chief of police? They basically were like, look, as we understand, this family has gone through trauma. This was unnecessary, so we will settle with them. We are not gonna, play this out, let it hold on, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So some of this settlement money was even reimbursement for the funeral funds, which had actually been paid for by Kina Al Sharpton's, what is it called? Is it something Action Network or something? I forget what the name
is. It Political Action Network?
Yes. So they actually paid for the funeral.
Yeah.
So they are being reimbursed for the funeral off of these monies. So so there's some things in there, and it could be that they also were active in pushing and going, between them, Ben Crump and other civil organizations, may have gone and pushed hard for the family. And remember, for us, it got to a point where we're like, okay, EKC menyamaza.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going on?
But there was a lot of action happening.
There was things that were happening, but it seems they were happening behind closed doors, and it's just that it wasn't on camera.
Exactly.
And now we've seen, what's come out of that, where they've had the settlement. The money has actually been paid out, by the way. So it's not like it was just in it. The money has actually been paid out. To me, I wish that this was even settled for something, for a big dollar amount, because, somebody may say that $8.5 million is a lot of money, but it's not enough for me to, in my judgment, for people to say, lesson learned, ini kitu hatuwezi fanya. It needs to be kitu kama 100 to 200 million.
It needs to be a punitive amount.
Yes, because once you figure chaps like that, then it sets a precedent for other places. Because then you have a case that you can go to and you can say, hey, okay, kule pia, so and so versus so and so, kuna hivi do imetoka. But if you get figures like that, that's pretty much, for lack of a better word, what is it called? Kama ile insurance ya daktari. That's basically a payment out through the insurance.
All right. And Pablo here is also further saying that this is that is a strategy by the state to settle the wrongful death in a civil way. This is meant to show that the state is empathetic to the family and also kind of provide an easy path for the criminal case against the officers, which actually is very interesting because I was reading in one of the publications from Richmond. There is a guy called Macaulay Porter, a spokeswoman for Governor Glenn Youngkin, the Virginia governor, who on Wednesday said that the governor pushed for a settlement with the hope that doing so proactively and fairly might alleviate in a small way some of the suffering that Avo's mother and brother faced, recognizing that no settlement can take the place of a loved one. So I think this was done in
Kimaksudi. Yes,
Yeah.
it was done in good faith, but also to show that they had nothing, they had no malice towards the family.
Yes.
And so then the question would be that then would somebody then look at, because you still have to pick your jury from people who now know
From
of the
peers.
civil settlement.
Yes.
And it may taint, those are chaps, and
It may influence.
yeah, they may even say they don't want to have the trial in their area, just because people have heard of the settlement. Waende mahali wanafikiri pengine people have not heard of it, or you go, you pick some chaps from the backwoods huko.
All right, I want to welcome our other listeners. I can see Jackie Wanjiri is in the building all the way from New York.
Jamata.
Matoda Forster from Baltimore is in the building. Slay from Texas, kama kawaida yuko ndani. Pia Pablo, of course. Amina Holmes all the way from Ohio. And of course, our super producer Mubelwa Bandio. And Uno Mike, I want to get you into the conversation. Salimia wasikilizaji na watazamaji kwanza. And tell us, just generally what you think about this new development. This, by the way, was just published yesterday. Of course, a lot of things were happening in the background. For those who are just tuning in, this is regarding the civil settlement that the family of Avo Otieno, the Kenyan who was smothered to death by police near Richmond, Virginia. There was a settlement that was reached in what DJ Moshfire was updating us. Uno Mike, what are your thoughts about all this from the day when we interviewed Avo's brother Leon Otieno? That was back in March, I believe.
I think I'm with Omosh on this one. I think it is sad that a life had to be lost, and of course the circumstances under which Avo transcended, passed on, excruciate. 11 minutes he's being
Umenyongwa.
11 minutes.
Ali, you're not breathing. You're
not
fighting
doing
to
anything.
breathe.
And we're talking about not just one. We're talking about a bunch of people.
There were 7.
There are like about 7 or 8 people.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
and all of those
And
guys.
they are not small people.
No.
No, I mean, these are guys who are putting their feet, their knees, their whatever. So, again, ile iwe funzo, probably something bigger. I don't know if it's a jurisdiction issue, like in terms of how much you can, like when it comes to compensation, if it's a jurisdiction issue, like this is the only, you're only allotted a certain amount or not. But I think more than that, and another thing, like for them not to like they say we're going to settle, but we're not agreeing.
We're not taking
We're
responsibility.
not taking
Yes.
So
responsibility.
that in itself is an issue.
That for me is an issue.
Yes.
But I think in the world of public opinions, we already know that means you're not taking responsibility. You're responsible.
The damage is done. The damage
we know.
is done.
I think we can safely say that. No matter what they say, no matter what statement they say, that they're not responsible, they are responsible.
Absolutely.
Because if they were not responsible, they would not have settled.
I wonder if by them making sure that was actually underlined, it means that you can't come back, or let's say another generation behind this one can't come back and then sue them again. You know what I'm saying? For that, saying that you affected us, blah 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 blah, because they've not admitted fault.
They've not admitted.
Because if they admit fault, that means that then they are liable. Then the question then becomes, how liable are they? Are they liable for this? Is this the cap? Or can somebody else come back, or descendants of come back and say, okay, you know what? Now we want to sue you, even as Jusisi atukukula uko. Maybe it was my dad who kulad me, I didn't kula. You understand what I'm saying?
I think if that was the case, then they probably would put a clause, like what they have, double jeopardy.
Yeah, I mean,
Like once it's sorted,
yeah,
they would have a clause. You can't come back
you can't come back and sue.
and sue.
And this is
But you see, the agreement is gonna be with this generation, not with the next generation.
But now
Yeah,
this is where maybe Pablo needs to, like chime in and maybe tell us what exactly this means. But this is the balancing act that sometimes a family has to do, like whereby you're going against, like a whole state, you're going against a whole police department, you're going against
Sheriffs, whatever,
you're going against
hospital,
sheriffs,
whatever.
So at some point, like you do have to make judgment. And I think civil rights attorney Ben Crump was part of this civil case, and he's very experienced in this, so I'm sure like he read between the lines, like he read on all the I's. He made sure all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed.
I would hope.
Yeah, so
I would hope. I just think, like with Omosh saying, I just believe that I think there would have been more. And by that I mean, because I'm looking at what Pablo is saying over here, right? Like,
There may still be more.
like the payout was 8.3. Family got 5. We know
5
after
5.05.
5. Yeah, after funeral expenses. I think
and the attorney
and
fees.
the attorney fees.
Yeah, attorney took about
3
3
meter.
about 3 meter.
okay, wow.
Yeah.
So
3
I
point
think
something.
on this one, and this is from me on having watched Law and Order and some other movies or whatever.
On the layman's side.
On the layman side,
Yeah.
is why not have the farmer gets the 8.5, then the same guys settle lawyers' fees and any other outstanding balance
so
or
I
whatever.
think a lot of these details are usually reached in this settlement.
Yeah, in that
Yes.
settlement. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something
that's
that
what
they
I'm saying.
that's something they sat down and they decided on, right? And maybe this is and think about it, with all the past cases that we have seen, from say George Floyd time, and some of the other ones, the settlements never came this quick.
Yeah, this is
and
less
this
than 6 months.
And this is what Lawrence is saying.
This is unprecedented.
Yeah.
But it could also be that maybe those other chaps are like, as we want our 100 million.
And so these are the details
we don't
where which we don't know.
If you read Lawrence's comment,
Yes.
he's sort of agreeing with and you in terms of it being rushed.
Yes.
The decision being rushed.
Yeah, and I think we'd also love to hear from Mika. I don't know whether Mika is already, available listening to us. It would be good to chime in because Mika actually lives around that area, and he's familiar with those jurisdictions. Because when they talk about those jurisdictions, they're very confusing. There's Richmond, Virginia. There's Henrico County. There's Dinwiddie County. So there's so many jurisdictions that were involved in this because of where he was picked up, where he was taken, the police who came in, and all that. So yeah, so if Mika is available, Mika, please.
River Road School of Law. Mutajua mujui sre.
Okay.
Niyo kumi na do.
You know what? I think we should. Is there any way we can remove slave from the Nini?
Kirinyaga Road campus.
Mika Och,
This
Mika
Mika.
Och, all the way from Richmond.
Na yeye ndio mtu wa statement za nini? River Road. Aonge sahi.
No, Mika. Well, I mean, you live in that area. You're familiar with the dynamics
Of the cops.
within that area, because there's so many jurisdictions, involved. Was a bit confusing. I've gone to the area, but then you hear Richmond being mentioned, you hear Henrico being mentioned, you hear Dinwiddie County being mentioned, so it's very confusing. But what is the mood actually out there, in as far as this settlement, and what do you think so far, from what you've heard, Mika?
I guess the mood is still the same, like how it was earlier on when this happened, that it should not have happened at all. And especially how it all got to come through with the neighbor calling the cops, and then from there the cops taking him, and we all know what followed up. So the ruling is, just as we are having a discussion over here, it's just the same way, even when you listen to the local news and people commenting about it and talking about it, is that they're asking the same question. Why was it rushed? Is it really enough? Can they say that the family got, they feel like is the amount enough for the family? Did the family really, is it elevating anything for the family from what they suffer through the loss of Avo? Like it's one of those things which is being looked at very keenly in terms of local politics, and especially since
Elections.
the local districts
Wow.
in those areas, the elections are right up the corner. Actually, early voting is starting. I think it started this today.
Yeah, so
Early voting
Virginia,
has started
Virginia,
today.
Virginia has a gubernatorial election this
This year in November. Wow.
It's something that, and I think that is the reason why also, you know, the Republican governor who surprisingly won, but he was expected to win, doesn't have a lot of control in the state senate and the state congress. So this is one of the things that will play a very major role in this coming election, and that is why you see also the approval of the settlement and why it's being rushed. So it's something that still is a very hot topic around here.
Wow.
But I'm sure now all eyes are going to be turning to the criminal cases. How are you going to do them? How are you going to rush them as you've rushed this civil case? How the trying of those cases, how it's going to happen? So quite unfortunate that this incident that happened to Avo is being used as a political tool, but it's also being used as a way of trying to bring in reform on how the police happens around here. As most people know, Virginia police are a little bit heavy-handed.
With black people or everybody?
Everybody, but
Mika, you're going in and out.
Mika,
in and out.
unahepa,
You're going in and out.
unakuja ukienda.
You've not bought the new iPhone.
Ongeza bundles.
Okay, we're gonna try to get back to
Mika amekuja akienda. I think his bundles are over. We'll need to.
No, I think his neighbors caught up with him. He's been stealing the neighbors.
Hey, Ali, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. My AirPod died on me.
Okay, so now we can hear you.
I told you.
Yeah, so I was saying, Virginia police are very bit heavy-handed. That is something that they don't for. But it's just like, and you'll always hear, like, I live in Chesterfield County, and you'll hear people call it Arresterfield County. They say that police over here just arrest people for nothing. It's called Arresterfield. But then Henrico is called Henrico, like, because of the police. So it's just a thing that people joke around it, but they are known to be that. And this is one of those situations that are leading to a lot of conversation about the policing of the area, not only just around the Richmond area, but it's around the whole state, to try to see if they can make the police over here stop being that heavy-handed, and especially with it being in the south, and not really in the south, but the tip of the south, which has a little bit of a lot of influence on the northern side of Virginia from what we call the East Coast. So it's a tricky political situation right now, but hopefully the death of Avo can be one of the Kickstarter of not only just improvement on policing, but also on how they handle calls when you're responding to people who are suffering through a mental health crisis. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, thank you so much, Mika. That was a very good update from Mika, someone who's actually out there, very close to where this incident happened. And Tabitha and Jerry here, karibu sana. Tabitha is asking, in comparison to what was the George Floyd settlement amount or other similar ones. So I think, Tabitha is just asking that question, and I'm not sure how much George Floyd settled for.
No, I haven't. Hiyo research hatukufanya. Tulikuwa tumeingia hapa KBC, but we'll go to CNN and see what CNN is saying.
Yes, and then also Lawrence Kihanya is saying also, is it me or is in 3 million for the attorneys a little bit over the top, considering the nature of the case? Now, having some familiarity with not necessarily with civil cases, with certain civil cases, I can tell you that typically around 30%, that's usually
Correct.
a pretty standard fee
Yep.
that lawyers pick up. And you know, it's easy to judge, you know, and say, you know, like part of the reason why sometimes lawyers offer to take these cases for free is that they know, you know, like at the tail end of it, there's a big payday, you know, like associated with it. And I think, you know, I'm just seeing here that the George Floyd family agrees to a $27 million settlement amidst ex-cops trial. So you can see, and remember, the George Floyd case was so big. It was so big, it had national attention. This one did for a bit. It did not have quite the attention that George Floyd's case had. So I think, you know, this is something that the lawyers factor in, because if you negotiate in the wrong way, you may end up not getting anything. And I think that's going to be, you know, very bad.